from New Line. And this is actually one that Zach Cregger has attached himself to as well. Not in a directing capacity. He is producing this, but it is called The Occupant, which is pretty cool. I mean, this is kind of an interesting story. It's a haunted house film, but it was sold off of a short story that somebody wrote. And, it's something where it's like they had like a massive bidding war over this, which is kind of funny because you know, uh, Zach Cregger was in the news a couple weeks ago for having a bidding war over weapons, which is something that he will be behind directly. So it's one of those things where it's like he's just really hot property right now. I mean, makes perfect sense. Barbarian, obviously our favorite film of last year as far as horror goes, and he really came out on the scene here. So he's kind of like that Jordan Peele effect, I think. So it's
Yes.
like anything you put his name on, people are going to get interested in. But this is super interesting. Like this feels very grimy, very Stephen King like. And it's kind of wild to me. Again, this is based off a short story. It's 39 pages long, and they've already developed like we're going to be making this. And I believe this is. If I said movie, I apologize. I believe this is a series that they're trying to bring to light. I was listening to the Bloody Disgusting podcast earlier today, and they talked about it for a few minutes. So, but Luke, how you feeling about The Occupant?
Reading that article, it had me pretty intrigued. I mean, like, you hear this bidding war, and like how you mentioned, Zach Krieger was, we covered it a few weeks ago with weapons. It's like horror is back in such a big way. It's like, I think studios are really out here searching for these unique properties, and for this to be a short story and kind of, hanging their hat on that and being like, okay, let's pivot and make this into a TV series. I think that gives a lot of budding horror writers a lot of hope to be like, oh well, a lot of properties, even if they're not in screenplay format, can really be turned into something for film or TV, and find that medium there. So for me, this got me really excited. I think the concept here seems like a lot of fun. It's one of those things where at first glance, you might think, well, man, it's been done to death. But I think they're kind of putting a different spin on it a little bit. So um, I'm definitely intrigued to see where this is going to go. They didn't say like how many episodes. I mean, this is in its infancy, I think. So
I
I
think
don't really
so.
think.
They had a little bit more information on the podcast that I don't see detailed in the article here, but they said that basically they have one season in mind, but they are primed and ready to go for another. So at least two seasons, but the one season is what they're selling right now. So it's been purchased at one. So if it does well, we'll get a second season, essentially.
And that's where it's like, if especially if they're covering that short story in that first season, and they're going to kind of go their own route in the second season, you never really know how that goes. Um, so I mean, that would have me a little hesitant, but I think we're in for a really good at least first season there.
Mm-hmm. One thing that really stands out to me is like when they describe the film, not to get into details about it just because I don't want to take up any more time here, but it does sound very interesting. That the little tag that they put here that I caught my attention is it is one part poltergeist mixed with Stephen King.
Yes.
So it's kind of like those are two very classic, iconic names there when it comes to horror cinema or horror literature. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like the melding of that is definitely fantastic in my mind. If they can get the vibes right and they can kind of pull that off, I'd be very interested to see this. And yeah, again, it's producing, but anything that Zach Krieger seems to attach his name to right now, Hollywood is just trying to snap up as best they can. So it must feel good to be him at this moment in time. I mean, he just says he wants to produce this, and it was literally a bidding war in the trenches, they say, between Paramount, Lionsgate, and Amazon, with New Line that won, which they picked up weapons too, didn't they?
Yeah, I noticed that too, and it's like, I think again, I think a lot of these studios are seeing how bankable the horror genre is, and it's almost entering this renaissance. I think of almost like 80 slasher and stuff like that, but it's more so. I don't know. I think there's maybe a little even more, a little more like gravitas to it right now with the uniqueness of the stories. And I think studios are figuring that out. So they're like, we got to jump on this right now. And I think New Line's really trying to make a play to have a lot of these unique properties being brought to that studio as well. So I think it's an intriguing time again for horror. I think we're going to see a lot of this stuff out here. And I mean, Zach Krieger right now can do no wrong. So I think anytime he's going to be attached to anything, there's probably going to be, you're going to see that term bidding war in a lot of these different articles with him.
Oh yeah, I would agree on that. Yeah, you know what New Line needs to do though, if they really want to get back in the horror game, if they're really trying here, I'm all for picking up the original properties, especially from talents like this. But get Nightmare on Elm Street back on the big screen. Like we need that. I need that series revived. Like let's get back to it. Everybody else is doing it. We got Ghostface. We got Jason coming back now, which we never thought was going to happen. Like where's Freddy Krueger? You know what I'm saying?
Well, Robert England.
Still
I think
alive.
that I think well, I think that's kind of the obstacle there, where it's like he's not going to be around forever. So